What mind-blowing, but simple, facts would satisfy a 4-year-old daughter's daily request for one fact before bedtime? Dogs can tell when you're coming home by how much of your scent is left in the house if you have a daily routine. https://thebark.com/content/dogs smell passage time. Dogs have a sense of time beyond its relation to smells lingering. As anecdotal evidence, I feed my dogs at 8 in the evening every day. If I forget, right around 8:15 they will get up and start badgering me until they get fed. Also, I get up at 9 AM for work every day. I let them out at that time. On the weekends, when I really want to be sleeping in, 9 AM without fail they are up and grabbing chew toys and squeaking them in my ear until I get up. Persistent bastards. A day on Venus takes longer to complete than a year on Venus. How? It simply takes longer for Venus to do one complete rotation around its own axis, than it does for the planet to rotate around the Sun. Edit, from my memory I believe it's only like 10 to 15 days difference. But still an interesting fact. Another fun fact is aluminium used to be such a precious metal, and so expensive, that the top point of the Washington Monument is made of pure aluminium. At the time of construction, that aluminium would be about like capping it with platinum today. Cashews come from a fruit? The fruit is edible but apparently hard to transport long distances, so the only places you're likely to find it are where cashews are grown. They also don't grow inside the fruit. They're on top of it, like a sort of ridiculous hat. Edit, not on top, underneath. My bad. Either the fruit is the ridiculous hat or the nut is either a set of testicles or, as somebody below me said, a massive dump. Edit, wow, gold. Thanks a heap. Smile. I once told my son that there was a scientist for everything. So we started a tradition where he'd pick something to see if there were people that studied it, and I'd give some age-appropriate examples of what they do. Edit, thank you for the silver. Might suggest the study of metals and alloys and when we use what kind. He's always talking about the different eras of human history, primitive age, modern age, future age etc., so it'd be a good segue to Iron Age, Bronze Age. Editing again to add, since it's been mentioned in so many replies, apparently the podcastologies is like this, may not have the most family-friendly vocabulary, but I don't know, I haven't listened to any of it. My daughter, 5, decided that when she grows up, she wants to rescue sea animals. We had a good discussion yesterday about some of the neat things she could see and do in the type of job. We talked about how there is a lot of trash in the ocean and how it affects the animals. We talked about oil spills and cleaning the sea creatures after. We talked about dolphins getting tangled in fishing nets. We even talked about how we haven't fully explored the oceans yet and there could be new creatures that no one has ever seen. It was a really cool conversation to have with her. Hey, my big book of useless information may finally come in handy. The sleepiest mammals are armadillos, sloths, and opossums. They sleep roughly 80% of their lives. The jump rope dates back to around 400 years ago, when Egyptian children would jump over vines. People used to make little circuses with fleas. It started around 14th century Asia but peaked in popularity in 16th century Great Britain. Pennies were introduced in 1787, and more than 300 billion pennies have been made. Now there's about 150 billion pennies, enough to wrap around the earth 137 times. There are only about 40 1943 pennies, one sold for $112,500 in 1999. One of the founders of this coffee empire was a fan of the book Moby Dick, and wanted to name the company after the story's fabled ship Pequod, but they settled instead on naming the company after the ship's first mate, Starbuck. Lobster used to be considered a poor man's food. In the 17th and 18th centuries, American colonists found an overwhelming amount of lobster on the shore in giant mounds, sometimes up to a man's knees. There was so much of it in fact that a child could go down to the shore and come home with buckets full of dinner. People became sick of it and started feeding it to their farm animals while natives used it as fertilizer. Due to this, it gained a stigma being associated with poverty. The only people who ate it were slaves, indentured servants, and prisoners. A group of servants from Massachusetts actually sued because they were so sick of eating lobster, and the courts ruled they would only have to eat it 3 times a week. It wasn't until the 1800s this started to change, because railway managers discovered if they charged for lobster as if it were a delicacy to people who did not know its disgusting reputation, then people did actually like it. By 1920 it becomes the food of choice for the world's aristocrats. However, its popularity took a dive during the Great Depression and once again became a poor man's food, but by 1950 it had come back in fashion as the luxury food we know today. The alarm pheromone released by honeybees smells just like bananas. That's why banana-scented lotion and shampoo are bad ideas. When one bee stings, the others will sting the same spot. A female calf with a male twin is called a free martin. A hen will lay an egg every day or every other day but won't start sitting on them until she's laid enough. They all hatch 21 days after she starts incubating, and they'll peep to each other right before they hatch, and they'll all hatch together. Babies are born without kneecaps. The Liechtenstein army went to battle in World War I with 80 soldiers and came back with 81. They befriended an Austrian man along the way and he joined them. You can fit all the planets in the solar system in the space between the Earth and the Moon. And finally, Gullible has 3 liters in it. It's not very impressive, but most people think you're trying to pull a fast one on them and won't believe you at first. You can never face backwards on a staircase. Direction is always relative. If a person faces down while moving up the stairs, one could consider it backward. Otherwise, technically speaking, one can never move backward at any point, because in all reality, there is no one proper direction to move. The world is round, go in the opposite direction of one's destination and one will eventually arrive at it again. That all being said, your comment still fucked me up to think about for a hot second, smiley face. A cat's whiskers are as long as their body is wide, so that they can stick their nose into small spaces and know if they'll fit. They're also so sensitive that anything rubbing them too long can be almost painful. That's why cats meow at people when their dish is empty in the middle but not on the sides. They're asking the thing with hands to make the food go back where they can eat it comfortably. My cat found a proactive solution to this problem, where he uses his paws to drag kibble out of the bowl and all over the floor to eat it instead. Frown. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, cabbage, and cauliflower are the same plant. This can also be useful to help them try eating one of those if they already like another. You can always see your nose but your brain blocks it out. It rains diamonds on Neptune. You weigh 6 times less on the moon. That means an average 4-year-old would weigh as much as a kitten does on Earth. Ants can lift 500 times their own body weight. That would be like a 4-year-old lifting 6 cars. Preemptive edit, researchers have found that ants' bodies can withstand forces up to 5,000 times their body weight, but in terms of useful lifting capacity the number may be much less. Whole milk contains 4% milk fat, so it has a thicker consistency than other milk types. Reduced fat milk contains 2% milk fat, low fat milk contains 1% milk fat, skim milk contains 0% milk fat, so it has the thinnest consistency of milk types. Additionally, it has vitamins added back into it that you usually get from milk fat. Outside of the US it is common to see milk sold in bags. Eggs in the US have to be refrigerated because the FDA guidelines require eggs to be cleaned, which takes away a protective layer that eggs normally have. Snake Island, off the coast of Brazil, is entirely populated by golden lancehead pit vipers, except for the unfortunate birds that land there. Their venom can burn human flesh. Because the snakes are so deadly, the island is completely off limits to humans. Not really a story for a child, though. So, Winnie the Pooh was named after a real black bear that lived at the London Zoo. Among the people who visited the popular bear was Christopher Robin Milne, son of Winnie the Pooh author A. Milne. There is a species of bird called the club-winged manakin that has solid bones, unlike 99% of other bird species. The reason behind this is really weird. Males flap their wings against each other to make a pleasing hum noise that attracts the females. To get the right pitch, they had to evolve denser wing bones that would actually carry enough weight to make that noise when hit together. Because of this, they aren't great flyers. Basically, bird species decides to give up the ultra-awesome power of flight because the females think that a certain noise is really nice. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may too be entitled to financial compensation. Mesothelioma is a rare cancer linked to asbestos exposure. Exposure to asbestos in the Navy, shipyards, mills, heating, construction or the automotive industries may put you at risk. Please don't wait, call 1-800-99-LAW-USA today for a free legal consultation and financial information packet. Mesothelioma patients call now. 1-800-99-LAW-USA. Horses can't vomit. Blue whales can make a fart bubble big enough for a horse to fit inside. Dolphins will often help shipwreck victims stay afloat because, as a mammal, they understand drowning. Baby elephants suck on their trunks just like how baby humans suck their thumbs. Bees will sometimes take naps inside flowers. You're statistically 10 times more likely to get bitten by a New Yorker than a shark. Alpacas make great lawnmowers. Instead of pulling the grass out by the root while eating, they nibble the tops off. They also have soft pads on their feet which don't churn up the ground. Snow White's red cheeks is makeup painstakingly applied to each individual frame of the animated film. Details. Upon finishing Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, 1937, Walt Disney himself commented on how Snow White looked too pale after screening it himself and stated would need to be fixed before the film's release. This horrified many of the animators as each layer of each frame of this movie had already been fully painted. So instead, Disney embraced a different method to make her look less pale. The seemingly natural rosy cheeks she has in the film is real makeup, real blush, painstakingly applied to her face each frame by a makeup artist. This also makes the blush in her cheeks subtlety animated, as each application of the makeup was unique. Linguists studying dolphin vocalizations have discovered that each dolphin has a specific call pattern that they will teach others in their social groups to make to get their attention. Dolphins have names.